Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the June 14th, 2022 Wareham Board of Selectmen meeting. May I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wertz? You're muted.
We have in attendance Mr. Chadwick, Mr. Bessie, Ms. Whiteside, Ms. Wertz, and absent is Mr. Slavin. We also have Mr. Bowen here.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan will be joining us, I believe. Pledge of Allegiance. Whose turn is it? Tricia?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we have a smiling Mr. Sullivan now too.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan has joined us. Thank you very much. I'd like to skip to item number 5, which is the proclamation for Kevin England. Would you let Mr. England into the meeting, please?
Oh, hi. I didn't know that I thought I was in already, so I was confused.
That's
Sorry
okay. Yeah, you were in the waiting room, so now you're in as a participant. Okay.
Okay.
Can you see us all?
I can, yes.
Awesome. Welcome. We asked you here this evening so that we could read this proclamation to you. Okay. The Board of Selectmen of the town of Wareham, Massachusetts present this proclamation to Kevin England. Whereas Kevin England has overcome many obstacles since being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at the age of 3. Whereas Kevin England, as a member of the Wareham High School class of 2019, was also a member of the National Honor Society, received the Principal Award, and was one of the top 10 students in his graduating class. Whereas after graduating from Wareham High School, Kevin England enrolled at Bristol Community College in September of 2019 to pursue an Associate in Arts degree. Whereas in addition to being a successful student, Kevin England volunteers with Wareham Middle School's CARE program, and he works part-time. Whereas while a student at Bristol Community College, Kevin England was inducted into Phi Theta Kappa Honor Society and graduated in May of 2022 with a grade point average of 3.88. Nice job. Whereas Kevin England was chosen by Bristol Community College to be the salutarian of his graduating class. Whereas Kevin England will continue his studies at Bridgewater State University. Whereas Kevin England is not only an exceptionally well-rounded student, he is a kind, compassionate friend, brother, and son, and a role model for all of the citizens of Wareham. Therefore, it is with great pleasure and humility that the Board of Selectmen present this proclamation to Kevin England, presented this 14th day of June 2022, signed by the Board of Selectmen Judith Whiteside, Patricia Wertz, Ronald Bessie, Jared Chadwick, and Alan Slavin. Nice job, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we mail this to you? Would you like to pick it up?
You can mail it to me. It's 268 Judge Pond Road, Wareham, Massachusetts.
Yep. Thank you. Congratulations. One of the people you might like to talk with later on after tonight would be Ms. Wertz, because she has been involved in social media and promoting communication among people. And I think she might be a good contact for you to talk with, because I recognize that that's one of the things you want to follow up in your studies on.
All right, awesome. I would definitely want to exchange emails before I get off.
Thank you. She can, we'll get hold of you, okay?
No worries. So
Okay, thank you.
After you're done with me, like I can get off, or do you want me to stay the whole thing?
No, you can stay. I mean, you can go.
Okay.
Go play tennis, go have a ice cream cone. I think we all would like an ice cream cone right now. Can you go have one for me?
It's okay. I mean, if you want me to, I just don't
No,
wanna...
no. We really wanted you to know how very proud we are of you.
Okay.
So thank you and good evening.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Kevin.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
We have George Morse here. Would you let him in, please? And Ms. Wertz, I think we're going to item 6, if I'm not mistaken.
Are we skipping announcements?
Oh, yeah, no, we are not. Go ahead. It's a good thing one of us is paying attention.
Well, I've worked on it hard today, so.
Yeah,
So so what if we started with Mr. Chadwick in that corner of the screen? And I'm assuming you're all in the same order as on mine, but Mr. Chadwick, do you have anything to announce?
Yes, I have a couple things. The first one is from DPAWS, Unleash the Possibilities. Literary Youth Art and Literary Contest, 2022 themes, all creatures great and small, or Wareham Dog Park opening potty is the themes. Jurors from art and literary fields for 3 age groups, ages 5 to 8, 9 to 12, 13 to 16. They will have visual arts or literary, poetry, short story, lyrics, letter, descriptive essay limited to 1 page. All contestants entered into a prize pool raffle. Enter both visual and literary contests to increase your chances. Winners also receive trophies. For more info, please visit warehamdogpark.org. Submissions accepted from July 6th through August 10th. Submission sites are the Wareham Free Library, Onset Bay Association, the Gleason Family YMCA, and the Wareham TD Bank. Submissions become property of DPAW. Family celebration at the Gleason Family YMCA on August 26th. Like I said, for more info, please visit www.warehamdogpark.org. That is the first one. And the second one is.
Can you hang on 1 second? Could you let Mr. Slavin into the meeting, please, Mr. White? Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. The second one is I'd like to address the incident shooting that happened over the weekend in Onset. We are a small community with a lot of people and a lot of youth that are out in these streets, traveling them every day. If anyone was around and present, please speak up. Speak up for the kids that you see riding their bikes, that are down at the courts, that are out at the fields. Speak up for their safety. If you don't want to do it for yourself, speak up for them. We can't afford to fall apart as a community with something like this happening. If you have cameras at your house in the area, please reach out to the police department and let's get this solved, and let's bring us together as a huge community as we possibly can. It's for the safety and the betterment of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin, the record will show that Mr. Slavin joined the meeting at 7:06. Good evening, Mr. Slavin. Mr. Bessie, why don't you go next, sir?
Yeah, just one thing, just something to add to. It's that time of year again. Wareham Gateman baseball has started up again this week. An exciting time, a little bit of fun to bring your family out and enjoy a night of baseball. Their next home game is going to be this Saturday at 6 p.m. So I encourage anyone that likes baseball to go out and give the Gatemen a look and enjoy a nice little night of baseball.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin, don't tell us about your car trip.
It was only 104 degrees today.
Oh,
Car broke down yesterday. I was fortunate enough to find a shop in Memphis, Tennessee, who took us in immediately and fixed the problem and got us back out on the road again. So we were able to make the second part of the trip today, and tomorrow we're off to Hoover, Alabama. And I don't have to worry about getting a tan for at least a couple of weeks now. I'm well done. I have nothing as far as really announcements, except that we're working with the police department and fire, et cetera, and the town on a hopefully a very large, very positive event in Onset Village, basically a car cruising event with a food truck and some other vendors, and plus the fireworks in that third week on September. We're gonna be able, looks like, to close down Onset Village and have cars just angle parked all over the area. And we may have as many as 1,000 cars in the area. It's gonna be interesting to see if we can pull it off. That's it for today.
Thank you. Ms. Wertz, do you have any announcements?
I lead a pretty boring life. I mean, one of the things that interested me had to do with us more than anything else, and it's the MSA free training for newly elected select board members that occurs on July 23rd. It's in Devon's Center Park, Devon's. I don't know if it's also on Zoom, but it looks like something we personally should consider.
Excellent. Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Thank you.
I would highly recommend that. I'm not sure I'll be training at that one as well.
Okay, thank you. I was going to mention the Gateman as well, so I'm glad that Mr. Bessie probably is a rabid fan, and so are your kids, I hope. It's a great program, and they do have some wonderful programs for kids that I believe they have scholarships available for the camps, that kind of thing. So the other really neat programs that we have are centered in Onset. Through the Buzzards Bay Coalition, you can learn how to swim, sail, fish, quahog, crab. I was going to say skateboard, but you know what I mean, paddleboard, kayaking, all that kind of thing. Many of those programs are available at free and reduced costs. So I would urge people to take advantage of the wonderful real estate that we live in. And that is all I have to say. And I think it is, no, not quite. Let's go to appointments, Ms. Wertz.
Yes. So next,
Let's let Mr. Where'd he go? There was one of the individuals here. Oh, he's Mr. Morse is here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
So before we look at the individual appointments, next on the agenda, I think Mrs. Whiteside has
I want to do that.
suggested that we move.
Well, I want to do that after the constables, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay.
So then I move that we appoint the 4 constables for the town meeting as noted on this agenda. That would be Mr. Kamen, Mr. Morse, Mr. Short, and Mr. Thomas. Their terms will expire on June 30th, 2023, and all their paperwork is in order.
Thank you. If anybody has any questions of Mr. Morse, please raise your hand, members of the board. And if not, I will thank you for joining us. And I don't think we have any questions of you. These are all reappointments. I see no questions. I will accept a motion.
I make a motion that we move to appoint these 4 constables for said time frame, as mentioned earlier.
Thank you. And is there a second to that motion?
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. 500. You will all are reappointed, and the paperwork will be available to you, I believe, Thursday noontime in the Board of Selectmen office at the 3rd floor. We're now going to, oh, not yet. Go ahead quickly. Yeah, I want to move the item. Somebody has a background noise going on. Please mute yourself. We'll do the item 8C. Please bring that forward.
And so 8C has to do with when the process, how the process in being, what's the word I want?
Appointed.
Appointed is a great word. Appointed to various boards and committees, and a suggestion on how we formalize that particular situation. So I'm moving that the Board of Selectmen immediately adopt the process for appointments to any board or committee as follows. No member may be sworn in after his appointment until he has completed both the online training course for ethics as well as the online course for the open meeting law. The individual must give the printed certificates demonstrating successful completion of the training to the BOS office. Upon receipt of those documents, the individual will be given the paperwork, which he will then take to the town clerk's office to be sworn in.
May I have a second to that motion for discussion?
I'll
Second.
second that
Thank
motion.
you. The reason we have brought this forward is that we have found that many people get sworn in and they have either 10 or 30 days to take the open meeting law course as well as the ethics course. We're finding that people aren't doing that, even though we've given them a link to the two courses that are online. One of them takes 20 minutes and you can't fail, and the other one takes 40 minutes and you certainly can't fail. So this is an opportunity for us to make sure that the individual who is being appointed has actually completed those courses, handed the certificates in to the Board of Selectmen's office where they will be noted, and then they will be taken to the clerk's office and noted and kept on file, because we are required by law to take and demonstrate that we have taken those two courses every 2 years. Town employees are required to take them once every year. So is there any further discussion on the motion that Ms. Wertz has made and has had seconded? Yes, Mr. Slavin?
Just a question. Don't we have sitting in the state House and Senate one of our charter changes that I think
Yes.
this law put in? So do we go ahead and put this in with knowing that the state may come down and approve that change, which basically blows out that selectmen's policy?
That's not it's not a policy. This is a process.
Understand, but all I'm saying is the process says they have to get permission, etc. If this is the one I'm hearing correctly as far as the CPC goes.
No. You're not listening. This is the appointment to any board or committee.
Never mind.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing none, I will go for a roll call vote. The motion is to adopt this procedure. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes, thank you. We will notify the office tomorrow, and the constables don't have to do this, but any appointments made from now on will have to comply with that. It is now 7:15, so Ms. Wertz, I will hear from you again, please.
So we have an appointment.
No, we need to go to the hearing, please.
That's where I'm headed.
Okay.
For an appointment at 7:15 with Mr. Papantoniadis. Please, sir, if you're here, excuse me if I've not said that correctly. For licenses, and so next on the agenda is the hearing for two public amusement licenses.
And with us is Mr. Evangelista. So I will need a motion, and Mr. Evangelista has indicated that he alone is representing the business this evening. So I will ask a motion, Ms. Wertz, to open the hearing.
I move that we open the hearing for Papantoniadis, Inc., DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill for two public amusement licenses under Chapter 136 and Chapter 140 of Mass General Laws.
May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you for a second. Somebody has background noise. It needs to be shut down, please. Thank you. Motion made and seconded to open the hearing. Is there any further discussion to opening the hearing? Hearing none, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Now, in the order of the normal order of things, the agenda would have shown item B first. So I am going to ask that we recess the hearing and go into item B so that we understand what the corporate entities are that we are dealing with. So I will ask for a motion to recess the hearing, please.
So I move that we recess the hearing for Papantoniitis, Inc., DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill until the conclusion of disposing of item 7B on the agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
May I have a
Second.
second? Motion made and seconded to recess the hearing. I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. Now I am going to ask Town Council Richard Bowen to address Mr. Evangelista, who is here representing the business. Mr. Bowen, please.
Thanks, call me Rich.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
Good, thanks. Hey, Madam Chairman and I were looking through paperwork, and we were a little concerned because what happens is after the Board of Selectmen reviews applications, and then it goes off to the ABCC. You know, the ABCC 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks working on stuff and well, when I said drag it out, it makes it sound like they're being dilatory, but they look at every fine detail. Going through the paperwork, I noticed some issues, some things that might cause you problems. And so I thought, well, this would be a good chance for us to try to get some of this stuff straightened out before it got to the state. When it gets to the state, there's no straightening anything out. So you with me there?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, cool. So I went to the Secretary of State's website, and there were 5 different Papantoniades entities. It looks like about 3 of them maybe are related to what we're doing here.
Okay.
So I'll just take that in by way of background. So when I look at the application materials, and I'm just kind of sifting through the paper here. So for example, if you go to the public amusement license, in fact, I'm just going to try to hold it up so you can see. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have some sophisticated, oh gosh, that doesn't work at all, does it? Hold on,
Yeah, it's going to the blue screen.
yeah, let me turn off this out of space background. See if I can come up with something more friendly. No, I'm not going to try that because I'll just lose you. So, sorry, what can I say? There's a public amusement license, and the way it's written up is it says it's issued to Papantoniades Inc., DBA Onset Patio and Grill. And the problem with that one is that there is not a corporation known as Papantoniades Inc. So this would have to be changed to identify, corporation.
I think the corporation is supposed to be Papantoniades Pizza Inc. And that's
Well,
where the problem is.
Mr.
Yeah.
Evangelista, can you just let Mr. Bowen finish, please?
No,
Yes.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yeah, no, let him do his list first and then go back and we'll have you ask him the questions if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, all right.
You keep breaking up, Mr. Bowen, and the
Yeah, that's technology for you. So anyway, that one's kind of got a problem, but you've also got it down as Papantoniades Inc. DBA Onset Beach and Patio Grill. And if you look at the DBA certificate that you have, the DBA certificate that you have is Papantoniades Properties, DBA Onset Beach and Patio and Grill. Now, Papantoniades Properties is one of the corporations listed on the Secretary of State's corporation's website, but it's not the same as Papantoniades Pizza Inc. or Papantoniades Inc. So you kind of got a problem there with that, because that makes, every time you put DBA on something, it makes it ineffective. And I'm telling you, the ABCC would be on that like a heartbeat. Well, yeah, I guess you don't go on things like a heartbeat. I'll say like flies on honey. That's probably better. And then when you look at your workers' comp insurance affidavit. That's made out to Pop Antoniotti's Inc., DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill. And again, that's an entity that's not on the corporation's list, and it's not the DBA. So that's a problem, because basically the certification that you have workers' comp is certifying that an entity that doesn't exist and a DBA that is different has workers' comp, and that's, you know, probably not the case. So you'd want to get that straightened out. On your revenue enforcement and protection, Re-Attestation, and this is the one that the ABCC will grab at really quick. It has you down, you know, as you know, Frank, and then Pap Antoniotti's Pizza, DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill. But when you go down the form, it says signature of corporate officer, mandatory if applicable. And you've signed this, it looks like as an individual. And so, you know, we're of course glad, or the ABCC will be glad that you signed as an individual, but they're going to want something from the corporation. So, you know, you'd want to redo that. And then on the Sunday or the Sunday entertainment license, you've got Pop Antoniotti's Pizza Inc. That's good. DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill. No, that's not the applicant, because the DBA and Pap Antoniotti's Pizza don't match up. So there's a problem there. I'm sorry to say. And then we have these different entities applying for different licenses. We have a certificate of liability insurance, Pop Antoniotti's Pizza Inc. That's good. I mean, you definitely want liability insurance, because, you know, anytime liquor's involved or alcohol, it's serious stuff, and you want to make sure that you're covered for your own protection. But then it goes on to say DBA Onset Patio and Grill. There's a disconnect. Your DBA certificate is to a different entity. So, you know, a lot of times insurance companies would look at something like that and say, well, you didn't fill this out properly, so sorry, we're not going to cover you. And you don't want that. I mean, that would be tragic for you. So you don't want to get involved in that. You want to get that squared away. And then when you look at the actual proposed license for alcoholic beverages, you've got seasonal. That's good. The Pap Antoniotti's Pizza LLC, DBA Onset Beach Patio and Grill. You want to get the insurance straightened out. That doesn't match the LL. That doesn't match the DBA. And here's another problem. I hate to pick this apart, but I'm trying to get ahead of, you know, the ABCC doing this to you. The on the corporations list at the Secretary of State. So this is the official list of, you know, what's a corporate entity. There is no Pap Antoniotti's Pizza LLC. It's Inc. So they'd throw it out just for that, and then the insurance company probably give you a hard time on top of that. You got to get that straightened out. Now, when you get down to the actual application, which is Pap Antoniotti's Pizza Inc. Okay. You're applying for change of manager. No, you're applying for change of manager. Yes. Here's the where he it has you down as a manager of the new restaurant, and then a manager, Kelsey Opaki. Did I get that right? But then the newspaper story, well, I'll read it. It's, Brill was bringing new offerings to the table. That sounds great. And his partner, Stavros Pap Antoniotti's. See, that's the problem. If you're going to have a partnership, really what you're looking at is a change of ownership or a change of partnership or something like that, which is like a completely separate thing. On the other hand, if what you're doing with Stavros is, if you're doing like a management agreement, there's a whole form that you got to fill out on that. And when I looked at the form, you know, none of that stuff was filled out. So you really want to get that right, so it doesn't, you know, hang around the state level, and then you get crushed. You know, because this is peak season. This is, you know, this is when you want to make your hay. So, you know, that's why you want to get this stuff squared away right now. What else are we doing here? I mean, these are kind of the big things that you want to take a look at, because you have a whole bunch of different entities listed as applying for this or that, different names. The DBAs apply to some of the names. The insurance applies to some of the names, but not some of the others. You kind of have to have it all, you know, lined up. You know, this is the entity, this is the insurance for that entity is getting this license, and so on. It's all over the place, and that's going to cause you problems. And God forbid there was ever a, you know, an accident or something like that, your insurance company would be looking to bail in a New York minute, because they'd say, well, this is made out to the wrong entity, so we don't have to cover that, you know, God willing, God forbid, accident. So I'm not on the board, obviously. You know, my recommendation on this would be, you should get some professional advice on these forms and get it lined up straight. In fact, I think if you play this tape, this part of the video, to whoever you get for professional advice, I've kind of just outlined everything you need to change to get it squared away. Get some professional advice, get everything so it lines up correctly. Same corporations, same insurance policies, same entertainment licenses, same tax certifications. Get it all lined up so that way it comes in clean. And if you're doing a management agreement with Stavros, you got to fill out the management agreement section. If you're going into a partnership, and I understand, you know, people use words loosely, you know, and what might mean something to, you know, an everyday conversation it could mean something different to a state regulator. If you're going into a partnership with Stavros, then, you know, that's a different kind of animal, and you got to fill out that part of the form. It's more of a change of beneficial interest. I think that's what it's called, a change of ownership. So, you know, my advice is take a tape of what I'm talking about here, get some professional advice, get it so it's all lined up, so that, you know, it's not August when you're finally allowed to do business. Because here's the thing, you know, if you're operating, and I'm not saying you are, and I'm not going to say it, but if you're operating as if this has already gone through, you know, that could be a problem, and that's a problem you don't want. I think you know what I'm saying. So, Madam Chairman, that's what I had to say. You know, you might want to consider giving Frank a little extra time to get this squared away, because this would go up to the state, get bounced back, you know, would be weeks down the line, the summer would be gone, and he'd be in trouble, and I don't think anybody wants that.
Thank you, Mr. Bowen. Mr. Evangelista, do you have any questions of the young man? I think his suggestion to get the tape, you can get it probably in 2 days right off YouTube.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm under the assumption that I need to get some more things clarified as far as what we need to do to move forward with this. You know, we're just trying to grow some business in the area. We did an interview with them. I did explain to them that I was partnering up with them as far as they're the landlord of this business here. You know, they own the building. I have no ownership in it. I'm just managing the place. So, you know, that could have been loosely taken into what that sounds like. But as far as the other stuff, I totally get it. You know, that's something I'd have to talk to them about, because this is their business. They handle all that stuff. So I guess I'll have to talk to them a little bit further about it before we can move forward with it.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask my board to do a couple of things. One would be to table your request for the change of manager and the change of the DBA until all of the paperwork is completed and, you know, up to the suggestions that Mr. Bowen has made. Then I'm going to ask this board to go back into the public hearing because we recessed that. And I'm going to ask them not to close the hearing. I'm going to ask them to continue the hearing so that we don't have to re-advertise it. So when you bring all of the paperwork back to the Board of Selectmen office, then we can simply put it back on an agenda and go forward. In the meantime, the license is in effect under the name of Stashes. And so you can certainly, you can use that license. That's how you are operating right now. Where you can serve liquor between 10 and 10 under the seasonal license. Doesn't have anything to do with how many hours you're actually open. Does that help you, sir?
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, great. So I want to thank you for, first of all, I should have done this up front, but thank you for choosing to do business in Wareham. You've picked a wonderful location, and we hope that you are successful. I don't think we have any questions. So Ms. Wertz, I'm going to ask you for the first motion, which would be moved to table the request for the change of manager.
I move that the BOS table the request for change of manager and change of DBA pending the clarification of which corporate entity is applying and which manager will be the day-to-day manager of this corporate entity.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion, which is giving Mr. Evangelista time to, we'll call it, straighten out the paperwork? Is there any further discussion on the motion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
And myself, yes. So that is tabled. Now I would like to have the hearing reopened, Ms. Wertz.
Okay. I move that the BOS reopen the recessed hearing on the requests from Toniatis Inc.
May I have a second to that? Okay, thank you.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to reopen the hearing, which we recessed earlier this evening. Is there any further discussion on that motion? I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Myself, yes. We are now back in the hearing, and now I'm going to ask Ms. Wertz for a motion to continue the hearing.
So I move to continue the hearing on Papadoniatis Inc., DBA Onset Beach and Patio Grill for 2 public amusement licenses under Chapter 140 and Chapter 136 of Mass General Law.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Bessie, I read your lips.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Again-
Just a quick clarification on the continuance. Are we going to continue this to a specific meeting, or are we gonna continue it and wait for the paperwork to come into the office?
I think that Ms. Wertz would be willing to clarify her motion to have all of the appropriate documentation returned to the office as suggested by Mr. Bowen, something like that.
Do we want to date by?
I would, my personal suggestion would be, because we're going every 2 weeks, that I would leave it an open continuance.
Okay.
And that gives him the opportunity to come back as soon as he can, but it doesn't hamper him.
So please state for me again what we want to add to this motion.
I wouldn't add to it. I moved, unless Mr. Bessie, you think that that's important.
No, I mean, if we want to leave it open so that he's not, in a sense, handcuffed to, hey, you have to have it in by this date. And then once he gets it in, then, at your discretion, you can put it back onto the agenda for it to be.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm hoping that we can do to help the young man get his paperwork in order and get it done so that we'll pass all of the inspections that ABCC, and our own inspections as well. So you don't need to amend your motion.
Okay, so
Okay.
just to repeat it.
Yep.
I move to continue the hearing on Papadoniatis Inc., DBA Onset Beach and Patio Grill for 2 public amusement licenses under Chapter 140 and Chapter 136 of Mass general laws.
And there was a second from Mr. Bessie.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? We'll go for a roll call vote. This is to continue the hearing for an indefinite period of time to allow the young man to get his paperwork in order. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin, Ms. Wertz,
Yes,
myself, yes. So, Mr. Evangelista, thank you very much. And thank you again for choosing to do business in Wareham. We appreciate it. And hopefully the video will be able to help you and your attorney or, other people get the documentation in the order that will pass muster. Is that okay? Okay, thank you very much for joining us. And now, Ms. Wertz, we have another agenda item, 7C, ma'am.
yes. Next on the agenda is an application from Baba Gyrillos. I need to go to Greek school. SAD Inc. for a common vic license.
And Mr. Mila Gergis should be let into the meeting. I hope I pronounced that one right. Doing pretty well.
So, do you have any questions? Are there any questions?
Hang on a second. Let's have the young man join us. You're Mr. Gergis?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. Can you state your name for the record and tell us what it is that you are wanting to do?
Is my name Milad Georges.
Okay, and you want to open the business known as Baba Kyrillos Saad Inc., DBA Cranberry Pizza and Steak Tip?
Yes.
Excellent, okay. And Ms. Wertz, is the paperwork in order? We had one question, as I recall.
And we do have a question about an insurance binder.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that there's anything else, but the insurance binder was an obvious issue.
I'm going to ask the Board of Selectmen, if any one of you has a question of the young man, please raise your hand. I'll let you ask a question of the young man. I see, Mr. Bessie.
So, my only question is this business currently operating in town?
Yes.
And is that allowable based on being granted the license yet?
Yes.
I'm going to pass answering that question.
Yeah. For business.
Hang on, Mr. Judges. Please. You bought a business that was there known as Slice of Heaven, I believe. Is that correct?
Before.
I'm sorry, your audio is breaking up. Could you repeat that, sir?
It's Slice of Heaven.
So you did buy the business from, or you're running in the same location as Slice of Heaven? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I think the answer to your question, Mr. Bessie, is an obvious answer.
So it's being operated under Slice of Heaven and not Cranberry Pizza and Steak Tip.
We are tonight going to be issuing, hopefully, the common vic license to this new business.
Okay, just want to make sure that we have everything in order before we grant or not grant a license.
Thank you. Ms. Wertz, is there any other questions of the young man? Ms. Wertz, Mr. Slavin, you have a question?
Yes, it's hard to hear because people seem to be stepping on each other there's a lot of static and background noise. This particular place, Slice of Heaven, is on Route 28 before the YMCA turn, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Who owns the property?
Mr. Georges, can you answer who owns the real estate, sir? And you're muted right now. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're okay.
It's Antonius.
Could you say that?
The landlord's name is Steve, and the corporation under Bob Antonius.
I'm having real difficulty understanding.
Okay, I can make my cousin read for you like the name for the corporation. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
What I would suggest is when Mr. Murad was speaking, one else.
I think this gentleman can answer. Mr. Clayton's question. I hope.
Madam Chairman, can I ask you a question here? Can you ask if he has two phones on Zoom at the same time? Because I think that's the feedback.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. Mr. Georges, you should have only one device operating at this time, which would be your Zoom. If you have a phone, you should hang it up because we're getting feedback from it and having trouble hearing it.
It's Bob Antonius. He's gonna spell it for you the name right now.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, so the question, sir, is who owns the real estate that you are operating the business out of?
Is Papa Antonius. The song is PAPANTONADAS.
Papanianis?
Bob Antonius.
Okay, do the rest of you, okay. Can all of you mute yourself while we try and understand this gentleman? Thank you. One more time. Spell the name of the owner of the real estate.
It's PAPANTONIADAS.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin, does that answer your question?
The problem is I can't understand anything that's said.
Appetinitis.
It's not necessary that he own the building, sir.
I understand that. I'm just trying to find out what we're doing. I'm going to abstain whatever we do with this one.
Thank you. So the only issue that we had was the issue that was mentioned earlier, which was the how insurance policy was made out. So, Ms. Wertz, I don't believe there are any further questions of the young man. Could you make a motion, please? You're muted, my dear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, my motion will include both information regarding the corporate name as well as insurance binder. So I move that the BOS grant the common vic license to Baba Kirillos Sad Inc., DBA Cranberry Pizza and Steak Tip, subject to clarification of the corporate name as well as receiving an insurance binder in the correct corporate name.
May I have a second to her motion? May I have a second to her motion? I will second her motion for discussion. Is there any further discussion on the motion to grant, subject to correcting or clarifying the corporate name as well as receiving an insurance binder using the appropriate corporate name? No? Then I will go for a roll call vote. The vote is to grant, subject to those clarifications. Mr. Chadwick, you're muted.
Can I ask a question to you?
Yes?
All right. So this is to grant them a license to open, correct?
Yes,
All right. Yes. Then my answer is yes.
thank you. Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Slavin, you said you were going to abstain. Can you just either do this or do that?
Abstain.
I think you said abstain. I have no
Abstain.
idea what you said.
Correct.
Ms. Wertz
Yes,
and myself,
provided on the conditions that are in the motion.
and myself, 401. Mr. Georges, you're going to have to speak with our office, at the town Board of Selectmen's office, to clarify a couple of the pieces of paper, particularly the insurance binder, which is not made out in the same name as your application. Okay? And that, you could do that tomorrow on the third floor. Okay? All right, thank you very much. And we will say good evening to you, Mr. Georges. Ms. Wertz, I think we can now go back to the 3 appointments under 6. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, I want to go back to I'm missing one of them.
Conservation Commission?
Yeah, I have comments here on the young woman's name is, here I have it.
Nicole.
Nicole, yeah. So there are 2 people up for appointment to the Conservation Commission. I move first that we appoint Nicole Locurdo to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire June 30th, 2023.
Now, my understanding is that that is taking Mr. Bessie's unexpired term. Is that correct, Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Thank you. I don't see her in the audience, so we are not able to ask her any questions. It is a reappointment. She was appointed a couple of months ago, I guess, upon Mr. Bessie's election. You're shaking your head, Mr. Slavin? She was an associate before then,
Yeah, she was an associate.
right?
So we're
So
appointing.
we're moving her up to a full-time member. But
Correct.
again, she would be filling Mr. Bessie's unexpired term.
Now, yes,
Thank you.
not before.
Right. Ms. Wertz may have did you make a motion to appoint her?
I think I did, but we'll do it again.
Okay, no, that's okay. Did I get a second, I guess?
No.
May I have a second?
Second,
Thank you. Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion to appoint Nicole Locurdo to a full-time position on the Concom?
So I guess I would just have maybe it's a matter of order, but shouldn't we be able to ask questions of these folks before we appoint them to a full-time voting member on any board? I mean, I don't know that I would feel comfortable appointing someone without at least being able to ask some questions. That's just my, I just think that's the way it should be. I think we should be able to ask questions before we're stamping someone to be on a board of any sort. It doesn't matter what board it is. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I think that we should be asking questions of these folks, especially in light of things that are going on in town, and making sure that everybody is fully capable and understanding the roles that they're taking on from a an important standpoint.
Thank you.
What
Ms.
I would,
Wertz?
what I would say is we have a memo connected with her application. And it's from the Conservation Commission, and it says at our meeting of 6/1/22, the Conservation Commission voted 6-0-0 to recommend Nicole Lacupto to be appointed a full voting member of the Conservation Commission. So we do have that support for her here.
Mr. Slavin?
I think to be consistent, what Ron's asking for is really what the norm should be. If someone is being reappointed because they're already been there for a long time, we already know what it is, etc. But anybody going on to a position like the Conservation Commission, etc., which is a very difficult commission because of what they deal with and everything else, the board really should at least have the opportunity to ask some questions to make sure the board is comfortable when they place someone on that type of committee.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick, your views on the issue?
Really have none. I agree with what Ron and Alan have said. I think that person should be here so we can at least ask them some questions.
Okay.
I don't have any at this time, though.
Okay, Mr. Bessie, I value your comment, and I think it has value. The individual was invited to the meeting, and I don't see her, and I don't remember seeing her earlier and having left the meeting. So, Ms. Wertz, I would ask you to withdraw your motion, and whoever seconded it, maybe it was me, withdraw the second.
I will withdraw my motion to appoint Nicole Lacurto to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2023.
I think it was my second, and I withdraw it. Mr. Bessie, do you choose to make a motion to voice what you had said?
So I would make a motion that anytime we are going to be appointing a new member to a board or commission here in town, that they have to come before us so that we have the ability to ask some questions to get some more understanding of who they are and understanding what their role is, and making sure that they're ready to step up. As much as I appreciate when people step up and want to help the town, I just want to make sure that we are rubber stamping someone that we believe is able to do the position that they are asking to be appointed to, and just giving us the opportunity to ask those questions and then making the decision from there. So that way, at least as a board, we've covered ourselves to say that we did our due diligence and asked the questions before just having them out voting on important, especially conservation, where there's a lot of important things that happen and decisions that are made, and just making sure that they have a full understanding of what they're doing first.
Okay, that motion in your wording is out of order, but I could ask you to make it in the following fashion. I move that we hold off on the appointment of Nicole Lacurto until she is able to appear before this board in person to answer questions.
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'd second it.
Thank you. It's only out of the scope, Mr. Bessie, because you were not, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I went way down the road.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So there's a motion and a second to invite the young lady back to be able to answer questions because she is being moved up from an associate to a full member. I'm going to go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick. You're muted, but I can read your lips. Mr. Bessie.
Yes.
Mr. Chadwick.
Yes.
Mr. Slavin.
Yes.
Ms. Wertz.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay. The next one would be to reappoint Mr. Kwame Barty. Mr. Wertz.
And if it's okay, I'd like to come back to a point after we finish this on this subject matter. So I move that we appoint Kwame Barty to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire 6/30/2025.
And note that there's a scrivener's error on the agenda. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion to reappoint this young man who's been on the commission as a full member?
All right, so just to clarify, it is for a 3-year term, because that was going to be one of my questions, is it only said 1 year, so it is a 3-year
It
term.
is a 3-year term, yes, sir.
Okay,
It's a scrivener's error on the agenda. I apologize.
okay, no, that's fine. I just wanted to clarify because it only
Thank
showed
you.
1.
No further discussion. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you very much, 500. And then the next one would be Ms. Rice to the Wareham Board of Library Trustees.
So I move that we appoint Nancy Rice to the Wareham Board of Library Trustees for a term to expire June 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you. This is a reappointment, and she has been recommended by the library trustees as well. She is not present, but it is a reappointment. So there has been a motion and a second. And if there's no further discussion, I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Bessie,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
myself, yes. Thank you. Okay.
May I bring up my point? on these?
Yes. Yep.
So what I think just happened here, and the three of us are new at this, is we made a definite decision that if people are being appointed to committees and they are not being elected or reappointed, that they must come before the select board for an interview. Now, I don't
think
know.
we made that. We did not make that decision, nor can we make that decision. It's not on the agenda. So we have heard Mr. Bessie's concerns, which I hear you echoing, but we cannot vote on that. We could put it on a future agenda if you like.
Okay, so at this point, what is happening with this young woman is unique to this event, unless we put that on a
Yes, if you
subsequent
would
agenda.
like to put it on a future agenda as
Yeah. Okay.
as a requirement, then I have no problem with doing that
Yeah.
for the agenda of the 28th,
Okay.
if that's what you ladies and gentlemen would like me to do. But we cannot act on it now.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And let's move on now to 8A, which is Miss Quirk, Miss Nichols, and were we expecting one other ladies? Denise. Okay. Ms. Nichols and Ms. Quirk are here this evening, I think, to give us a quick reminder as to the discussion that we had a while ago about setting up a renewable energy study committee. Ms. Nichols was on the solar bylaw study committee, and Ms. Quirk is new to the town of Wareham, but not new to regulation. Miss, do you want to go, Ms. Nichols?
Good evening.
Go ahead.
First of all, my apologies from Denise. She was trying to get on her phone, but she had to go, I believe. She is interested, though, in being on such committee should it be formed. And she also was on the solar bylaw committee. So as we spoke about a few weeks ago, part of what we found as a group while we were working on the solar bylaw was that was the need for perhaps having a standing committee to monitor changes in advances in technology and allowing the town to be a lot more proactive and as opposed to reactive to those issues should they come across our desks in the future. You know, we need to recognize that this is not going to go away anytime soon, and there's probably going to be more different types of technology coming through. And we need to be prepared for it. Those are the main reasons that we felt that creation of a standing Um, I know that Jerry Clerk has been in contact with both myself and Denise and has said that she'd be interested in serving as well as Denise. I think we would be able to find a few other members in town that would be interested in serving on such a committee, should it be formed. And I was wondering, does anybody, since we last talked, have any questions for us on that?
Hand if you have a question. Ms. Wertz?
So less of a question, but more of a supporting statement for you. You know, prior to being elected a selectman for the last couple of years, I've been closely involved in monitoring and in some cases participating in issues about solar. As Jackie said, the technology is changing so fast. And not only is it changing so fast, it's being implemented before it's mature. That a single, today, a town, a city, a state can't stay up to speed on what they should be knowing in order to make the best decisions for the particular piece of government they're involved in. When we look at Massachusetts, there are a number of towns who are involved substantially more than Wareham is, and for good reasons. And as of recently, there's a basic feeling that you can't impact positively or stop anything negatively happening to your town or city unless you're actually even involved at the state level. So I think the need for this type of committee is even broader than what Jackie was involved with initially. And so I would encourage us heavily to look at putting this type of committee in place and probably expanding the type of experience that we would like the participants to have.
Thank you.
If I could react to that.
Sure.
I think it was as the solar pilot committee really came up with this idea for a renewable energy committee. And I think the idea was to have people from all different walks of life, so to speak, get involved in this and learn about it and research it. And be aware of it. So yeah, Tricia, you're right. We need a bunch of different types of people on this committee.
Thank you. Mr. Slavin, you have your hand up?
Yes. The whole thing about, you know, whether it's solar, windmills, alternative energy that is not, you know, fossil fuel based, has been an ongoing and a very complex question. The state has their own desires for so much percentage of alternative energy, and that's why there's such a hard push. The federal government has their own energy programs, etc. Wareham, of course, is through the efforts of myself and Mr. Sullivan, have an energy aggregation program, which allows the residents to save money. And with the last couple of weeks or so, with the increase in fuels and everything else, there's going to be some increases from the regular, you know, electric companies, etc., on these costs coming through very quickly. So the energy aggregation program was a good thing for the town of Wareham. We're also involved, myself anyways, I'm on basically the MMA legislative committee on energy, etc. So we really do have to have a committee, but the committee has to have skills in this area. It's not just a committee to go on because you want, you know, solar, but you want to restrict where the solar goes and the tree issues and everything else. That can't be the only reason to be on there because that's not going to work. It really has to be people that are open, understanding the different nuances of each type of energy and what's going to work best in the long run. It's extremely important because this is not a simple question anymore. Thank you.
Mr. Bessie or Mr. Chadwick, I don't see your hands raised, so I'm going to move along. Ms. Wertz, do you have a motion?
If, before I do that for just a moment,
Sure.
I'd like to ask Sherry Kirk if she has any additional insight or input. Sherry, I see you're in the Zoom meeting.
Yes, I think you can hear me now.
And we
Yep.
can, hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. Well, 1 out of 2 is not bad. So I guess what I would add to this is that, I would like to add my expertise to this committee. I think having quite a broad reach and charter, not to misuse that word, is a good idea. I do come from a utility background. I was in private practice for many years in Washington, D.C. And then for the last 6 years of my career, I worked for a large utility serving consumers in 7 states. And so I have a lot of knowledge about technology, a lot of knowledge about regulation and, the various laws that govern the energy sector. And I'm very interested in seeing how it might be possible to help Wareham on both a defensive front in the sense of trying to anticipate what might be coming down the line and protecting against it, and a more sort of proactive or opportunistic direction or strategic, where we may look for opportunities for the town without spending money and incurring expense to gain some benefits from changes in the industry. And one thing you can say about energy is that it never stays the same. And whatever you're assuming will be the case a year from now, you can know that is the thing that will not be happening a year from now. And right now the solar industry is cratering because of unavailability of panels from China. We would not have anticipated that 2 years ago. Solar was competitive with other energy sources, and now it is not possible to buy panels, because of trade issues and various human rights issues. So I think it would be interesting and I think helpful for the town to be monitoring what is going on now and what we see coming down the pike, seeing whether we can influence it or at the very least to protect from it. And I would say that I think just having looked preliminarily at what the town has done, the aggregation program described by Mr. Slavin is an excellent example of what the town can do to advance its interests. And I would be hopeful that there are other things that we could find that would be beneficial as well.
Okay, I'm going to jump. Thank you. I'm going to jump in here. I think we all agree that we should be forming a committee, but I think that in order to form the committee, we need to know what the mission of the committee is going to be. So there are a couple of you who have evidenced interest in being involved in it, and I would ask that you put a mission statement together with a suggested number of a population, and that we put that on a future agenda. I will poll the board to see whether they think this is a good idea. This is not asking for a vote, but this is polling a board to see whether that we would be willing to create such a board or a committee with the mission statement in hand. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes, I'm fully on board with it.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Bessie?
Yes, with the structure that you are outlining, yes.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Slavin? You're muted.
Yes, and I would just make a comment that I have interest, but as a non-voting member, if this comes up.
Thank you. And Ms. Wertz, I know that you're in favor, as I am too. So that is a sense of the meeting. So I would ask whoever one of the driving forces might be to put together a mission statement and a possible population, like number of people, that kind of thing, and bring it back to the board. And I think that you will get 100% support. And I thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Wertz, we are now down to item 8B, which we're actually skipping over. So
Skipping.
we are on 8C, please.
which we
Oh,
previously
we already did.
addressed. So we're on D.
E, which is also being skipped over because it's premature for the House bill that has not yet been written. So we're going to go to E.
So are we going to ask Mr. Chadwick to
Nope.
present anything?
Nope.
All right. So E is addressing the curbside billing situation. I move the BOS approve the opt-out and reduction fee applications for curbside billing in the amount of $1,292.50.
Second, please. Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion? I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mr. Slavin,
Yes.
Bessie,
Yes.
Ms. Wertz,
Yes.
and myself, yes, 500. And then we will go to any other, we already did F, so
F.
that's not in front of us. We have no 48-hour business, so we will go to the town administrator's report. Mr. Sullivan has been waiting breathlessly.
Madam Chair, I had forwarded some CPC applications, including Bayview Park, and 3 others to the board. Was there an item? Are you skipping over that item? Is that?
They were not submitted in a timely fashion. The policy that is in effect requires that the Board of Selectmen have time to review them and recommend their passage to the Community Preservation Committee. So they are not on the agenda, sir.
Okay, and those were on town property. So just giving everyone a heads up on that.
That's correct.
All right. So sorry, I thought we were going over that. Let's see if I can share something real quick with you.
Can I just ask all of you, have you all been getting echoes? Because this is the worst I've ever heard the audio. No?
It's fine
Yeah.
right now, but it's been echoing the whole time.
That's what I thought. Okay, go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, the echo I heard was when there was a gentleman on there. So let me ask you a question. Is it echoing while I'm speaking or?
No, sir.
No.
Okay. So just giving you a heads up on the onset band shell. If you can see the background, this is, clearly that Pepsi container won't stay, and that's not supposed to be an advertisement. Where I wish we were receiving money. Just to give you the heads up, we got the structural analysis on it, and going through, the structure itself actually is in good shape and could give you another 40 years with the proper work being done to it. The electricals obviously were no good. And so we're going full bore on this right now. And this just to give you some ideas of what's going on. So up front here, you'll see where this was the extended area for the band shell, where you see what's been removed up top. That's being removed and replaced with concrete that's going to tie directly into the existing structure. So that will be a solid structure. We had wanted to move it out a little further, but Kat had asked that we do that, that she have an area for people to dance up front. And, so these boards will all be removed and concrete will be there as well. So you will have this dancing area, if you will. You'll start seeing these poles are being ground down, and as well as the railings, they will all be painted black. This, you start to see, this is where the rot was, and I'll show you some interior pictures. That's being removed, and let's see if this will let me go. So all this rot is being taken out, as well as the sills underneath. And this is Mr. Menard and his crew doing the work right now with outside of the electrical, obviously. But you can see where there were some issues. Let's see if it'll take me to the next one. Come on. There we go. The whole face is going to be replaced with this bead board. It is what you would consider a plastic. you can't tell the difference, and that will be long lasting. So it's going to be the white beadboard. Also, all the trims being replaced with a we'll call it AZAC style. Could be AZAC trim, but that's if you know, that's sort of as well the plastic. And again, this is to give it the longest lifespan possible. So we're replacing so much of this. And there you'll see actually in here, Mr. Menard has replaced all these 2x4s. They've pulled them out, including the sill, anything that's been rotted, and those are being replaced. And again, with the new exterior, that's going to mitigate the water intrusion. And what you didn't see is in the middle of the concrete where there was some water pooling in the base, they've actually created a drainage area in there to make sure that water is not pooling. All the electricity is being redone in this structure, and they're actually where it's run from the box 5 pole that's in back of where all the seating is. The electricity is now going to be run directly from the pole that's about 6 feet from the structure. It just makes so much more sense. And then let's see if I can show you. So you can see where some of the tie-ins are, and in the bottom as well, the hurricane tie-ins were rotted out. Those have been replaced, and they've never been up top here, which is one of the main issues. And just by putting those in, it's going to make the structure so much more secure. So this is again, we were lucky that they had this trim in stock. They're about 18-foot boards, and believe it or not, I think that's about it's got to be about $18,000 worth of material right there. So that tells you what's going on. So there they are grinding it down, but underneath here, those boards are going to be replaced with a different material. All the lighting's going to be replaced, and then the top of the roof is actually going to be brought in with the red roof color, which blends into what's on the onset bluffs for the small bathhouse that we have, and then the bathhouse as well. So it's giving a theme to what we're having. We'll keep the white look of the beadboard. That's going to be a nice contrast. And again, this is the trim area, everything that's being replaced and underneath. So that's just an update for what's going on. This work will be done in the next few weeks to bring it in line so that some of the concerts can go on at this location for the rest of the summer. And then the next phase is to actually work on the seating and the ADA accessibility. And that's a big portion of it. So rather than spending, 7 figures on a full replacement, we've spoken to Kat, who uses this, who's ecstatic. There's a couple upgrades, that maybe in the future we could use, but we're going to move forward with this, and again, try, and the next phase is doing the grounds, but we'll wait till after the season, then to I'm going to probably wait till October to break ground on that and change some of the seating, get it better. So just wanted to give you one of the positive updates that's going on. Also, items that have happened, it's as you know, for Swift's Beach, the announcement we've ordered all the playground material. The drainage at the playground over at Shangri-La has been redone, the 3 main areas, and we've ordered their playground equipment as well. The next stop for Swifts is going in front of community preservation. So looks like I'll stop my screen share there. So looked like my computer had a mind of its own right there. But so just giving you a good update. They're working away, and especially with the electricity, that was one of the big concerns. That's all being updated and rerun. So that's
Thank you. I just have one question. I think the railing at Bayside Park was replaced by Mr. Menard too. That was the sort of hanging.
Yeah, one of the things is we were holding off on redo it because that's all going to be replaced in the project. But Mr. Menard, was looking at the timeline, so he wanted to go out and get it done. And I will tell you that it's more than one person asked me what the hey is your director doing out there welding in the middle of the day, and that's the you'll find Dave. He's right in there working with everyone else, so it's pretty amazing.
Thank you very much. If any one of you gentlemen or ladies have a question of Mr. Sullivan, please raise your hand. Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan. Appreciate it. Ms. Wertz, liaison initiative
So,
reports. Let's go to Mr.
Liaison
Bessie
and
first.
initiatives.
Mr. Bessie first.
I have no updates for you this week.
Thank you. How about Mr. Slavin?
As you know, I'm away, so it's a little difficult to give you updates. MMA Board of Directors meeting was today. Also, the Local Governance Advisory Council was today, and the Mass Select Board Association meeting was today, which it was fun doing that as we were driving along with 5,000 other cars. The background was just pretty impressive. There's really no. Hold on a second. There's no really new news. Everything I've given over the last 30 days is still current. The biggest problem for the state is they have a lot of money. They have a lot of money basically on revenue increase over what they planned. So the benchmark of what they were going to give us, which is 2.7% increase, is actually now up to, I think it's 5.4 or 5.6, which substantial increase on UGR aid, and obviously the school aid is a substantial increase. So I'm going to say probably we're looking fairly good for the coming year, but everybody's extremely cautious what's coming down the line in the future, and we need to understand that and make plans for that type of scenario as it goes through. But right now, my biggest concern is that the state has too much money sitting, not knowing how and what to do with it. And the other problem is that the federal government is sitting looking. If the state's not using the money in a expeditious way, they may start pulling it back. So we as a town need to have any projects that we have, make sure they're viable and ready. It's not just the ARPA funds, but also if the infrastructure bill ever gets done and passed, that money will come very quickly and will disappear as quickly. So that's my only comment for today.
Thank you, Ms. Wertz.
I think the only meeting that I have liaison responsibilities for that I went to this week was the planning board. And it's a very interesting situation. The board is relatively new. We have two brand new players on it. And of course, we have a new chair of it. And it's at a time where the projects, especially the solar projects, are coming in and are really pushing. And they're pushing to build over boundaries that they're not supposed to do a number of different things, and just pushing the rules to see how far they can go. So I've been watching the board members withstand this, and they're, in my meager opinion, responding really well. There is a point in time where they're going to have to say yes or no to certain projects, and it will remain to be seen how that goes.
Thank you. I only have two things. I did go to the ribbon cutting of the brand new school on Saturday, as did Mr. Bessie and Mr. Chadwick. It was very well attended, and I think the kids had a great deal of fun after all of the people stopped talking, all of the boring speech givers. There was ice cream and popcorn and all sorts of awesome stuff, and touch a truck. And I just want to say that, in my opinion, is a perfect example of the community of the town of Wareham. The community came together 5 years ago, voted to build that school, came in substantially under budget. It's a state-of-the-art school. If I were that age, I would think that I had absolutely been transported to someplace awesome. The whole building itself is just wonderful. So I want to congratulate the school building committee, town of Wareham, for providing not only for today's education needs, but tomorrow's education needs. A huge investment in the town. And a couple of weeks ago, we had a ribbon cutting for Toby Hospital. So things, we really should be very proud of the town's accomplishments, whether they're private investments, whether they're public investments. I just want to say that. And then Ms. Wertz, what else have you got? Oh, I do want to say one thing. Ms. Wertz and I have worked really closely on what I will call scripting agendas and understanding agendas. And I really appreciate how hard you have worked and how well you have learned what has been a very difficult learning experience, I think you might say, and that you've done a great job. And I just want all of the rest of you to understand how hard Ms. Wertz has worked on your behalf. Now I'll let you speak.
Thank you so much. Now I can speak when she leaves me speechless.
Yeah.
So I think the next thing is to look at the approval of the last few minutes of, I think there are 4 meetings. The first 2 meetings I was not present at, but I did watch them totally in detail. And I have reviewed those videos, and it's certified in our office that I've seen them. So I moved the approval of the minutes for the May 17th and the May 24th meetings be accepted.
May I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? It would be all 5 of you can vote on this one. I will see no discussion. I will go for a roll call vote. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 500 for both sets. And then the next one?
And then there's a
Next
set of
two.
2 additional meetings. So I moved that we approve the minutes of the May 31st and the June 7th meetings where we were all present.
May I have a second? Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on that? I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
And myself, okay. Okay. Mr. Slavin, I think you're clerk pro tem for a couple of sets of those minutes. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't see any other business before this meeting, so the
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
motion made and seconded is not debatable. I will go for a roll call vote, please. Mr. Chadwick?
Yes.
Mr. Slavin?
Yes.
Mr. Bessie?
Yes.
Ms. Wertz?
Yes.
Myself, yes, 500. We are adjourned at 8:33 this evening. Thank you, Wareham, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Bowen and Mr. Sullivan. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And remember, we are not meeting next week. We are meeting on the 28th. Thank you very much. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.